my name is Ryan Fox, and today we're going to be painting watercolor on top of a plastic surface called YUPO. I know it sounds crazy because none of the color absorbs into the plastic, but it's really fun to paint on this stuff. You're painting a picture of a woman dancing in ballet point shoes. So that's the pure abstract painting we're going to start with before we carve out the person. And in just a second you're going to see the YUPO paper right here. YUPO, unfortunately, since it is plastic, if you touch your fingers on top of it, the grease from your fingers leaves a grease mark, and grease, as we know, is what? Water repellent, which is not good for watercolor. So you got to wipe it off with rubbing alcohol. Make sure you don't get a big thumbprint right in the center of the painting later. Once that's dried, then it's time to start putting some color down. So I get the entire surface wet again. I spray the whole thing. I take out my colors. I take out my squirrel mop brush, and I love squirrels, but I also love squirrel mop brushes. I think my father-in-law has kept this company in business for about 10 years at least. He hates squirrels. Then I take my palette and I just start with just random colors. I'm not thinking representational whatsoever at this point in time. Start with some of my blues. And there's no method to this madness right now. Then I go to my reds. Then I add some green here. I do a little bit of spattering. This is kind of a light value color. My goal when I'm done with the first stage of this YUPO, once it's dried, is like to have my mid-value ranges done. Then I can add darks and then pull off and go back to the white of the plastic to get my whites. You see I'm adding some phthalo blue here. I'm going to add some indigo in just a second because that's quite darker. And with watercolor, like whenever you paint watercolor, everything's going to be about 30% lighter once it dries. So if it looks too dark on the paper, then you'll be okay. And don't screw with it too much, otherwise everything is just going to end up all blending together and it's just going to go gray. And you see how the paint's moving around quite a bit because it's still so wet. And when the paper is this wet, it takes about 7 hours to dry. Once it's dry, it looks like this. So then I'm going to start painting on top of it with a person dancing. Now I've transferred the drawing onto the YUPO surface. I know there's people out there who say, oh, you can't transfer drawing. I can do whatever I want. I don't like to draw on top of YUPO because if you actually do make a mistake and have to erase, especially if you use a white kneaded eraser, it erases the color off the surface. There's nothing sinks into this because it's plastic, it just sits on top of the surface. So I usually do just a very quick transfer, just the basic shapes, and then I start painting on top of it. Now for the past few seconds I've been taking out like the highlights. I've just been going in with the brush and just removing the color off the top of the paper, going back to the pure white of it. Now I'm working on the foreground. I'm doing it really, really wet. I sprayed it a bunch. I'm using gravity to kind of move the color down and around. And you'll see me going back and forth between different areas. While things are really wet, since it takes such a long time to dry, you really have a lot of time to work on this stuff. So I'll work on one area, work on another area while one area is drying. One thing you don't want to do though is to say, hey, this looks really good. I'm going to go watch The Walking Dead for 45 minutes and then come back and take a look at it. Because if you do, you're going to get a lot of surprises and not really good ones. You can see here I'm working on the back area for to define her back and her rear end. It's super, super wet at this point in time. I'm using gravity a little bit to move things around, using the squirrel mop brush to soak up more colors, and you'll kind of see it creeping all the way back into the painting, running some of it off, and then you can see that color creeping back into it. And I'm going to start working on the upper left hand side of her head here, removing some of that color. And the fun thing too is if you just touch the paint while it's wet on top of the surface, it kind of lifts off and it gives you amazing granulation. I love to use that technique. You see that color creeping back into her rear end there? I'll kind of go back in occasionally and just clean it up a little bit. And the fun thing about YUPO is, my backgrounds are so chaotic with the colors because I just throw down just a random mishmash of whatever, that I try to keep the kind of same look when I take off the colors. So I want a lot of brush marks. I want colors in different places. That doesn't bother me. I want it to be kind of the same uniformity, craziness all over. Starting to work on her legs a little bit here. Just defining more things and continually jumping back and forth. Moving the canvas around. I paint flat so all the water doesn't just run off. You see that big puddle in the upper right hand corner right now, the background, that's still really, really wet, so I have to monitor that closely. And just that continual dance of back and forth, back and forth. I think this is starting to look good though. I mean, we definitely have a figurative person there. We have our light values, we have our mid values already established. Taking out some of the color for our thighs to define our leg a little bit more. One hard thing about watercolor and YUPO is it's hard to get soft lines, because every time, even using a Squirrel mop brush, it's a super soft brush. Do not use synthetics, that will pull off all the color underneath it. But I don't want to get super hard lines all the time, so you really have to monitor the water's edge and the drying times and move things around a little bit, and use a fine spray bottle to kind of blend things out if you want to. I mean, the hard lines are okay if you want it, but if you don't. Now I'm starting to get some of the darker darks in here, and this, again, is the Squirrel mop brush. A lot of color, a lot of water, and you literally just drop it straight onto the canvas. You don't scrub the brush across, because if you scrub across, you're going to remove the color underneath. So get the darkest darks in here, and you'll see they start to dry on the left hand side and how much they lighten up there. Go back in with some more darks, just let it dry, don't mess with it. A little bit more with the point shoes and define her knee here. And we're still missing a few things. For example, the shadow underneath her feet, which I'm going to start working on here, because you have to ground her. You're in trouble, missus. Sorry, that was a bad joke. A little bit more here with her arms. And you see now that background is dried, that big puddle actually looks pretty good. It looked like a mess for a long time. Now once everything had dried, it was time to kind of go back and analyze the painting. I'm looking at it, it's not bad, but it needs some more work. And first I'm looking at her face, and I'm like, what's wrong? And I'm like, ah! She's a zombie! So I've got to go back in and fix the face a little bit here. And this is the final corrected version. I went back and I fixed the face, I cleaned up some lines in the foreground, then I considered the painting done. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this demonstration today of watercolor and YUPO. My name is Ryan Fox. You can see more of my work at rfoxphoto.com. You can also check me out on my Etsy site at rfoxwatercolors. And subscribe to this channel and check back in the future. I'm going to have some more videos about pouring watercolor and watercolor batik. So thanks a lot, have a great day, and happy painting.